Wind farms, next page. Huge potential for this business. It's just now starting with all the green stuff that's going on and energy costs going up, and more importantly, better performance and efficiency of solar and wind equipment, for lack of a better word. You know, you could, a lot of people in most parts of the country that have good, solar access in the southeast and southwest corners of the country, you could spend $25,000 on a residential house and have enough power generating facility to run your whole house. Well pump, dryer, stove, everything else. Especially with the credits right now. More people are starting to do that. But beyond that, there are companies that are building wind farms and solar farms. The empty piece of land or even a developed piece of land, putting up panels and selling electricity back. It's like an investment because you're not going to get your money back right away. You might spend on a big project like that a couple $100,000, and it might take you 15 years to pay it off, but after that, it's all profit. And some companies are going out on a limb and doing that. Some companies are starting the process now because the panels themselves is not the most expensive part of the system on solar. And the new set of panels that will be out in 2 or 3 years are going to be much more efficient for the same area, will generate a lot more electricity. So some companies now are starting to put in a facility and then knowing when the new panels come out, they'll replace them and pay back a lot faster. Now's the time to get into that business. Find out who the companies are developing it. Most of the companies are relatively small. They're not huge long-term companies because this only started within the last 5 or 6 years in earnest. There's a lot of magazines that are out there about this industry. Solar Power Magazine is a really good one. It's more for the residential, but it has a lot of contacts in it. If you can find some of the local companies near you, this is also very regional. Sorry, for those of you in Chicago, probably not much market for that. Maybe wind in Chicago. But the companies that are looking for it, right now what they're doing is they're calling oil and gas landmen because they figure they know what they're doing. They know how to do this. They don't have anywhere else to go. And they're going there by default. Professional abstractors can do this. There may not be much business today, but this is also an investment of time for the future, because in 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years, this is just going to be like cell tower commercials. It's going to be more ubiquitous. There'll be more of this going on. They're going to need the same kind of searches. Similar to cell towers, you need a place for the power to come in, you need a place for the power to go out, you need a place for ingress and egress for vehicles, you need a place for communications because they have monitoring of the energy usage, like a phone cable. You need all kinds of stuff for that. You also need, they will need a survey. They're probably going to need a new survey. That helps in the title search part of it in a different way. If you know that your client is getting a new survey, it might help to see if they've already done it to get a copy of it. Because getting a copy of the survey might help short circuit the process of getting some of the stuff. If you know where the easements are and they're identified in the survey, you can get them faster when you're looking at land records rather than having to start from scratch. So asking the customer, depending upon what the relationship is with them, for a copy of that survey if they have it, could be beneficial. The companies that are doing this, what they're doing is they're finding a potential area that is ripe for development. Either high elevation, good for wind, the right azimuth for solar visibility with no obstructions, and they identify an area and then they say, well, who owns the properties? That's an easy search. That's not even a current owner search, really. It's just a deed search. Some of the companies are going to start with that. Here's an area, 5-mile square area. We want to name all the owners. That sounds like a pretty lucrative project because it can be done pretty easy. You might not even have to go into land records. Assessor's records might be okay if your county's up to date. Some counties only update once or twice a year. Maybe you start with assessor's records and then just check deeds, make sure there were no transfers. If your county is online, I know professional abstractors like us, officially we hate online stuff, but if your county's online for assessors and deeds, is that something you can do online and not have any loss of quality? Yes. Sure, absolutely. There's no harm in doing that online. You can do that from your living room in your bathrobe and make a nice little project looking at 50 or 100 properties how much a piece? I don't know, 20, 30 dollars a piece, whatever, and make a nice little project out of that. If it is a project where they're actually now developing, now it becomes more like a cell tower service. They need to know what's going on with that property. They may need to have a full chain back however many years, 40, 50 years, and with wind farms, for whatever reason, I haven't figured out exactly why yet, they're wanting all intervening documents, released or not, assigned or not. I haven't figured out why yet. Still talking to a few people about why they're doing that. Maybe they don't know any better and they don't need all those things. So it's really more like an old school abstract. When it used to be, you really do an abstract of title every single document recorded. You're not matching liens and releases. But that's one of the things we're seeing. They're also going to need the easements and topographical maps. If your county has like a GIS system or something that has topo information, they're probably going to get the USDA or whatever the Forest Service is, topo map for that area. But again, if you could get whatever your county has included with your report, they may not use it, they may not need it, but it's going to match what they already have. It's more credibility for your report. It's an extra 2 or 3 pages. You may want to decide to charge for it or not, but if nothing else, the next time they go to call somebody, they're going to say, you know what, I called this company last time, and they gave us all this stuff. That must mean they're thorough. They're getting everything. They're not just getting the bare minimum. So that's a good place to start. Again, just like with the commercial and the cell tower, they may not know all the stuff they need. They know that they're going to have to get easements for some of their facilities, so they may need to know where the existing easements are. They may not be aware of that. They may just say, hey, if I order a title search, it's going to have all the easements on it. Well, will it or won't it? So again, finding out the criteria, what they're looking for, is important. Any questions about the wind and solar? Go.
I would just check. You're saying they may not know what they need.
Yep.
In Iowa, I know that a lot of the wind farms are going up. They're also buying the oil and mineral rights with those wind farms. So they will need somebody to do that information as well. So if you're able to do it, just let them know specifically.
That's good to know. I hadn't heard that before. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense because they're already going to be, disturbing the land and using the land in the same way. Why not get the other subsurface rights? It makes perfect sense. So knowing that that's out there is good to know.
Well, I think that in Iowa also, I think, and I don't know this for sure, but I think that part of that is that one of the major developers is our local energy company, who also provides our natural gas and electricity, obviously.
Right.
But I think they want to know who has those oil and gas rights because they're.
It's energy.
They find that there.
It's energy. That's right. That makes perfect sense. It does.
And it's a huge business in Iowa right now. Iowa's like in the top 3 in the nation in energy production.
Really?
Almost year.
Wow. That's
So it's a good market.
that is interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, nobody would have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can imagine corn, but not.
Well, and we have actually several alternate. We lead the nation 1, 2, or 3 position in several alternate energy forms: wind, ethanol, biodiesel.
The wind is. I have to tell you, I looked at some alternate energy stuff for a property, and the technology that's out there, it's very tempting, depending on what your property is, to do it because the technology you could put up, 1 or 2 small little wind generators and a very small array of solar panels, and you're done. You have all the power you need. You can sell the rest back. You can make money. It's a pain in the neck because it requires some monitoring at batteries and power, inverters and charge controllers. But if you're kind of geeky and into that kind of stuff, it's fun and it's free electricity the rest of your life. Right now, it might. The other thing is the payoff might be 20 years at today's rates. You think the rates in 5 years are going to be anything like today's? The payoff's going to get shorter as the rates go up.
But if your lot's in a subdivision, you better check your restrictions.
Very good point. However, that's a good point. Right now, that's the case. We're seeing more laws in more states that are invalidating restrictions on solar, not wind, because wind makes noise and it can interfere with electronics. But on solar, as long as it's at the roof grade, it's not like on a pole or somewhere else. I know Florida has a law in some counties that even if the subdivision, like they did with dishes, remember back when there was a big thing with the dishes? I think it's a federal law with the satellite dishes. They can't restrict satellite dishes. if you can't get any other kind of TV access. We're seeing more of that. But yeah, right now, if you're in a subdivision, before you slap them on the roof, you better check your HOA, because otherwise you may have some expensive roofing material.
I was just to say, if the wind thing is something that people are trying to get into or find out about, an easy way to follow that is if you sign up for information for the Pickens plan, because he's the big
That's right.
internet, so you'll see where they're going and where they.
Good point.
Start.
Yeah, T-Boone Pickens
He's the
has-
ones buying all the mineral rights under all those farms too.
In
so-
Iowa? Yeah, yeah.
But they're moving west through.
Yeah,
Nebraska.
T-Boone Pickens is a big proponent of that. I haven't heard much from that camp in the last year or so, but that's a good point, that he's really behind most of what's happening with that.
So starting there, you'll be able to see where they're going and who they're using and if they have anybody in your area
Yep.
to do that work.
Excellent.